And welcome to another edition of Krown Countdown U. Here's what we have coming up for you in the next half hour. Football in the first block as we catch up with Montreal Carabins head coach Danny Maciocia. Then it's off to the Canada West for men's and women's hockey. After our men's hoops highlights, we'll talk with Scott Clark, the head coach of the leaders in the Explorer division, the Thompson Rivers Wolfpack, and women's basketball highlights with a discussion with Lisa Thomiadis, the head coach of the nationally #1 ranked Saskatchewan Huskies. But first out of the chute, let's go to AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The Team Canada U19 team pulled off wins before at this International Bowl, but they were in tough against a USA team loaded with D1 commits on their home turf, playing in the house that Jerry built. Solid gathering of over 5,000 on hand in Arlington. The scoreboard wasn't pretty, but this guy was for Canada. UBC defensive back Stavros Katsantonis with a pick, had a breakup too. Canada was down 6-0 at the half, but the USA was too much in the second. It was a better story for Canada in the futures games. Brampton's Devontae Stanley with some of his 144 yards on the ground, followed up by Mason Nyhus of Regina connecting with Red Deer's Ben Pasiuk to the one. So Nyhus does the rest. Canada take a 28-0 lead en route to a comfortable W. The first and only head coach to win a Grey Cup and a Vanier Cup is Danny Maciocia of the Montreal Carabins. We caught up with Coach M earlier, and to no one's surprise, he is picking the Carolina Panthers in the Super Bowl with Carbs grad David Foucault on the roster. Danny, this must give you the chance to feel like a proud papa, seeing that David Foucault was on the roster of the Carolina Panthers as they head towards the Super Bowl as NFC champions. How proud are you that someone on your roster is now on a Super Bowl team representing the UDM and the CIS?
Well, I mean, it's really exciting for us to see him participate in this upcoming Super Bowl that's taking place next Sunday. I've had the opportunity to speak to him here over the last few weeks. You need to understand that when I took over the program here at the University of Montreal, David was a defensive lineman who we had a little chat. We sat down and discussed the opportunity of him switching sides and coming to the offensive side of the football, and that's something that he wanted to do because he thought he'd have a future doing so, and it's clearly paid dividends for him in the last over the last 3 years at the University of Montreal. He was drafted in the first round, the 4th overall, if I'm not mistaken, by the Montreal Alouettes, and then he signed a free agent contract with the Carolina Panthers. I think he started 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he's played 1 game for them this year. But this is very exciting for us, very gratifying, and we're excited for David. He's done it the old-fashioned way through a lot of hard work, and the future is really bright for David.
Now on the field at quarterback, Gabby Cousineau has played out his 5th year, but Hugo Henderson has been waiting in the wings for 2 years. Where is Henderson in terms of his development right now?
Well, Hugo is in 3rd year here at the University of Montreal. In my humble opinion, I think he's ahead of where Gab was in his 3rd year. Don't forget, he was a former MVP of the CEGEP League here in Quebec. He's got a great understanding of what we're doing offensively. He brings another dimension to the game that maybe Gab didn't bring, is that he's got the ability to make some plays with his feet. He doesn't have Gab's arm strength, but he can definitely make things happen once he gets flushed out of the pocket.
What is your opinion on how your program's success reset and perhaps benefited the whole conference?
Well, I think it just makes for a healthier conference. I think at any point in time when the same team is winning over and over, if I'm not mistaken, correct me here, Jim, I think they won like 11 consecutive, and you haven't lost a home game since September of 2004, and you got on a run of 70 consecutive games. I don't know if that's a dynasty. I look at that more as maybe a potential problem in the conference. And I think we've become a viable option now for a lot of kids, especially, they realize that they don't have to go to Quebec City if they want to win a championship. They can do it through the University of Montreal.
During the offseason, Danny, I ask every coach this. In your mind, what is the biggest challenge facing CIS football in 2016?
Well, I think one word that comes to mind is probably transparency. I know there's been a lot of discussion regarding, recruiting practices, how everybody operates. I think compliance. I think every institution should have a compliance officer and make sure that things are done the way they're supposed to be done. Unfortunately, we fall into the argument or the conversation of resources, a shortage of resources. At some point in time, if we want to be viable and we want to give everybody a fair and equal opportunity to compete on a particular stage, then I think there needs to be compliance, and I think it should come from the top, and hopefully some of this, hopefully some of these leaders will step up and lead, because I think it's such a tremendous product. I think we've got so much more to offer. And it would be a shame if we don't maximize our potential.
Coming up next, the story in Canada West hockey. Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of university football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. After a rough start to the season, the Calgary Dinos have been on quite the tear throughout the month of January. The Dinos have lost just 2 games since the calendar flipped and went into this past weekend's head-to-head with Alberta, riding off last week's massive sweep of Mount Royal in the Crowchild Classic. Off to Edmonton we go. Second period action, Dinos up 3-1. Better make that 4-1. Kevin King with the tally. Game over. Well, not so fast. G-Bears scored twice in the period, cutting the deficit to 1. Then they opened the third like this.
Stefan Legault, who pivots and picks up this puck, comes back to Crooks with a one-timer, they score! Give me a shoelace! We're tied at Claire Drake! Crooks legs to Stanford, and we're deadlocked at 4.
But with under 4 minutes to go in the game, Kane Franson potted the game winner for the Prehistorics. They'd add an empty netter, taking it 6-4. Game 2, Dinos took a 3-1 lead into the third, but this goal from Brennan Yalowski evened the game at 3. But just over a minute later, Alex Dzelski pots the winner. Dinos add an empty netter and escape another one, taking this one 5-3. Lethbridge on the road at UBC. First period, Pronghorns on the power play. Justin Valentino's blast from the point is kicked out right to Ryan Moser. He deposits it in the onion bag. It is 1-0. Second period, T-Birds sloppy in their own zone, and Lethbridge capitalizes. Jay Merkley with the goal. It's his third of the season. Pronghorns take the first one 4-1. Game 2 jumps straight to OT. Pronghorns buzzing in the bird zone. Sam McKechnie picks up the puck and buries it behind Matt Hewitt. Lethbridge earns the sweep, taking this one 4-3 in OT. Bison's Green Dogs. This goal Andrew Johnson scored was his first of 2 as the Huskies take Game 1 8-3. Game 2, guess who? Johnson opens the scoring, tallying a goal and 2 assists as the Green Dogs take the second 5-2. Regina Mount Royal. First period, Blue and White Cougars on the power play. Jordan McNaughton's blast from the point finds its way in the net. Game tied at 2. The third was all Mount Royal. Cam McLeese scored this one to put MRU ahead 3-2. They score 2 more and take it 5-3. Second period, despite what the score says, Mount Royal is up 3-2. Riley Point with a nice tip in to make it 4-2. MRU goes on to the 7-3 win. A look at the big board. Check out those Dinos climb their way up the standings, now 4 points clear of UBC in 4th. Here's a look at the games coming up in Canada West men's hockey. We pass the puck over to the women now, where it was a battle of the Cougars in Regina. Mount Royal, Regina. Let's just watch the fur fly. So Cougs and Cougs. Straight to the second we go. Regina up by 1. Kylie Cupper rips this one past Jess Ross. We've got a tie game. Third period solved nothing. To the extra frame we go. Regina applying the pressure. Alexis Larson comes out from the corner and snipes the winner. 3-2 is the final. Game 2. Jess Ross somehow loses the puck. Kylie Gavlin takes it and wraps it home. Oh, Doctor! Regina wins Game 2, 4-1. T-Birds on the road in Lethbridge. Lethbridge edged the Birds 2-1 on Friday. Game 2, final moments of the third. UBC down 4-3. But Kathleen Cahoon evens things up with this beauty snipe. Second overtime we go. 3-on-3 action. Jocelyn Sabrin with the slick feed to Tricia Van Varenberg. That's the OT winner. Pronghorn State Game 2, 5-4 in double OT. Manitoba Saskey. First period, Green Dogs up 1-0. This goal from Lauren Zeri stood up as the game winner. Saskey takes Game 1, 3-1, but fall in Game 2, 3-0. Pandas and Dinos. Straight to the second OT we go. Kate Lumley's blast gets kicked away by Dana Owen, but Sasha Fafina buries the tough angle shot. Dinos take Game 1, 1 bagel. Game 2, third period. Game tied at 1. Pandas force the turnover, and Alex Poznikov makes the Dinos pay. The rookie nets her 11th of the season. It's the game winner. Pandas take it 3-1. Standings time. With 2 wins over Mount Royal, Regina is now tied with Alberta for second in the conference. Here's a look at the games coming up in Canada West women's hockey. Coming up, history is made on Vancouver Island. Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of University football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. In 2003, when Guy Vitry suddenly passed away in his prime years of his coaching career in Victoria, it staggered not only the Vikes program, but the entire Canada West basketball community. It was suitable then that UBC's Kevin Hansen would take to the road on the weekend to face arch-rival Victoria with a chance to move to number 2 in all-time coaching wins in the Canada West. The holder of that mark, Vitry, who Hansen has referred to as a great man and mentor. Would Hansen pass Vitry in the first of 2? Yes, he did. UBC had 4 starters in double digits as they cruised to a 28-point win. The next night, Taylor Brown was a perfect 6 for 6 from the field, going 3 for 3 from 3. UBC takes Game 2 with ease. Who's writing this, Dr. Seuss? Alberta Lethbridge. This was the Brandon Brine show. The fifth-year Aussie native scored a season-high 37 points, connecting on 7 of 9 from the land beyond. Horns take Game 1 by 32. Game 2. Lethbridge led by just 5 at the half, but outscored the G-Bears 25-9 in the third cube to waltz to another easy W. Huskies Westman. This 3-ball from Jamal Farley put the Westmen up by 2 in the dying minutes, and they did not look back. Winnipeg takes Game 1 by 4. Game 2. Jelaine Price scored a game-high 29 points. While Denzel Lynch-Blair poured in 27, Winnipeg takes both from the Green Dogs. Cougars Bisons. This triple from A.J. Bassey at the buzzer gave the Bisons a 5-point lead after the first cue. Bassey scored a game-high 27 points. Bisons take Game 1. Game 2. More of the same from the herd. Jonathan Alexander with the thunder dunk, while A.J. Bassey was working it from the land beyond. Bisons take both from the Cougars. Battle of the winless in Langley. Brandon secures its first win by taking down the Spartans by 11. Earl Thompson Jr. with a team-high 24 points in the win. Game 2, and it was the Spartans' turn to get their first win. Lucas Manna scored 36 to lead all scorers in the victory. Look at the standings in the Pioneer Division. Calgary and UBC have their tickets punched to the postseason. To the Explorer Division, with the bye week in the division, the standings remain the same. With just 6 games left on the season, that third playoff spot in the division is a 3-team race. Scott, welcome to the show. Let's first start off by going down memory lane a little bit. You're wearing orange these days, but you used to wear red, white, and blue up at Simon Fraser many years ago when they were both NAIA and cross over to the CIS. Take me back to the days in the Lower Mainland when Simon Fraser, UBC, UVic, and Trinity Western were all very competitive with one another. There was a special energy around the game in the Lower Mainland of Vancouver Island at the time, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, when I first started at Simon Fraser, you could eliminate Trinity. There was actually only 3 institutions that were really post-secondary institutions that granted degrees, and that was Victoria, UBC, and Simon. And obviously since then there's been the addition of several degree-granting institutions and the growth of post-secondary education and obviously athletics as well. And that's changed the landscape. When those first couple of years, really the best kids had 3 options. Now they've got, I guess, 7 here in the province, I think it is.
Talk to me about the rise of the foreign player in the CIS. We've seen it in the long history, going all the way back to Brandon, where the foreign player played a big role. But if you go through every roster, including yours, the foreign player is quite central to the success of a team. What is your thought on that development, and is that a result of some talented Canadian players taking a look at south of the line and maybe exercising their right to perhaps come back on the repatriated transfer rule?
Well, I guess, you've seen players, if we're to look globally, basketball has become a more global sport. You're talking about the NBA, there's a lot more foreign influence there. You start talking about the NCAA, there's a lot more foreign influence there in terms of Europeans or Australians. You look at LSU, the number 1 pick probably is going to be Ben Simmons, an Australian. Obviously, we've had a couple Canadians go in a number 1 position. You look not too far from here, Gonzaga has had a great international flavor. And so I think that, everything tends to, in terms of basketball, whether we're talking technically or what have you, filter down from the pros or from the NBA. And so because of that foreign influence, I think you've seen it in Canada now, and you could fight it or you can embrace it. And we've chosen to embrace it.
Scott, thanks very much for your time coming on board here, and continued success. And I'm really eager to see what the guys in Orange can do in the playoffs.
Well, thanks very much, and it's great catching up with you again.
Here's a look at the upcoming schedule in Canada West men's basketball. Women's hoops now, where it was a one-sided battle in Lethbridge, with the visiting Alberta Pandas and their 12-1 record facing a pronghorn squad that won its first game just last week. Not gonna lie, this was not pretty. But this was. Sydney Kumar, fresh off the bench in the second Q, drains this 3-ball. That's her first, 4th Q. Kumar back in the game, and this is her 3rd from the land beyond. Kumar, 9 points, 10 minutes. Pandas win big. Shoot for a Cure night the following night. Should have been Panda Attack 2016. Nice pink uniforms. But that's about all that was pretty for the Lady Horn. Regina, Manitoba. Charlotte Cott scored 23 points to lead the Cougars to a Game 1 win. Cott followed that up with 20 the next night. Cougars take 2 from the Herd. Birds up by 1 in the dying seconds in Victoria.
He's got to get it out of her hands and just does. Gets it inside to Karstein. She misses. Still has the ball. Gets another shot up. It's good. Vikes lead it with 5.2 to go. UBC's got to work their way down. They're going to get one last shot up. Lee gets a three-pointer up. It's blocked.
Vikes escape with a 1-point win on Shoot for a Cure night. Game 2, not as dramatic as the first. Nicole Karstein scored 20 for the Vikes. Vic takes both over the rival UBC T-Birds. Brandon, Trinity. Tessa Ratzlaff scored a game-high 29 points as the Spartans take Game 1, 87-81. Game 2, first cue. Brandon's Keegan Robinson hits the 3 ball to grow the visitors' lead to 16. Bobcats take the second one by 5. Huskies, Westman. Sabine Ducate was 5 of 6 from downtown, while Laura Daly was 6 of 9 from 3. Huskies take Game 1 by 42 points. Game 2, not nearly as bad for the Westmen. Daly shot 2 of 7 from 3 for a team-high 13. Huskies win by just 18 this time. The lone game in the Explorer division was a dandy. 30 seconds to go. This layup from Emily Canister tied the game at 69. 4.6 seconds to go. The Heat's Kyla McFadden hits 1 of 2 from the charity stripe to put UBCO up by 1.
In the inbound, they've got Boss. Hand off to Worsfold. She gets into the high post. They find Boss for the winner!
Michelle Boss is the hero. Wolfpack take it by 1. 3 out of 7 playoff spots now locked up in the Pioneer Division. By splitting the 2 games between them, Brandon and Trinity Western helped their own causes. The UBC better look out, now stuck in a 4-game losing streak. With the rest of the conference idle in the bye week, the Wolfpack's win over the Heat helped Thompson Rivers remain tied for first place in the division. Here's now a look at the upcoming games in the Pioneer Division. And check out the upcoming games in the Explorer Division. Lisa, many people will remember you from wearing red, not green, as head coach of Team Canada at the Pan American Games. Let's jump back into memory lane here. Take me through the run that Canada went on and the win over the USA and how it affected you as a coach.
Yeah, Pan Ams were a fantastic experience for us. I mean, we rarely get the opportunity to compete in Canada and to have the Canadian public get to know our team a little bit and the players that we do have and the quality of basketball that is played. So to be able to play in Toronto and on such a huge stage was phenomenal. It was really a relatively short tournament. It was 5 games in 5 days and kind of played a little bit better each day and culminated in that big win over the US for the gold medal. And Kia Nurse had a tremendous performance, but our entire team played exceptionally well. I thought we really peaked at the right time. Like I said, it was so great to see the public get behind us and to see packed arenas and, arriving on the bus at the Mattamy Center and people lined up just to get a look at the team as we get off the bus and people after the game sticking around for autographs from the players. The whole thing was just a tremendous opportunity, again, like I said, to showcase the talent that we do have and the team that we are.
What were the takeaways for you for playing against the international teams? Were there any learnings there that you took away from that?
I've done this for 11 years, so every single time we get a chance to play against international teams in different countries, you get to learn things because the style of play is different from country to country, and the things that teams are trying to do around the world is different than the North American style of play. So for me, it's been a tremendous learning opportunity, and each year, like I said, I always try to take away different things each summer that I can either bring back to my Sask team or to mold into what we do with Team Canada. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to get that learning opportunity.
Give me an example of what you brought back to the Saskatchewan team, who is ranked #1 nationally right now.
You know, anytime you get a chance to see different sets, different styles of play, you know, ways that teams defend ball screens differently or actions differently. So there's a lot of different things along those lines that I try and take, and either we test out here and see if it works, see if I like it. But again, I think as much as you can keep things fresh and new and giving your players different things and different sets or looks, it keeps it healthy for them, because the last thing they want to do is do the same thing day in and day out or year after year. For us, we have a bunch of fifth-year athletes, so they try out new things and you know, test their skills against different tactics. So that's what I try and bring back.
Talk to me about your team, especially for someone out there that may have not seen them, the #1 ranked team in the nation. How far can they go, and what are the strengths of your team?
Well, this team has been, you know, years in the works. I'd say we have 4 fifth-year athletes right now, so they've had 5 years of development with us, knowing our systems, and there's a tremendous amount of experience amongst those 4. You know, we had Laura Daly transfer into us, who's, you know, one of the best players in the country. She represented Canada on our national development team last summer, and Dallas Emerson, who represented Canada on the development team prior to that at the FISU Games. So, you know, there's a lot of chemistry and cohesion there, a lot of experience. And, you know, this group has been to nationals the last number of years in a row. And then we added Sabina Ducate as our point guard and really lucked into having her join us, because we did lose 2 point guards last year, 2 fifth-year point guards who, again, were tremendous leaders for our team, know the game of basketball, tremendous basketball IQ. And so we were really wondering how we were going to fill that void. And she's been able to come in and do a tremendous job of that. So I'd like to say that we're a fun team to watch. We have a lot of offensive weapons. You can score from a number of different positions, and a good mix of some size and some speed and hopefully some toughness on defense. So, you know, our toughest opponents are still yet to come, but we've been pretty happy with how we've been playing up till now.
It should be. Lisa, thanks very much for this. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks again for joining us for another edition of Krown Countdown U. Now, let's get to the game.